When you think of your years playing with Dublin, against Kerry, hurling for Kerry, playing for Cairns O'Reilly, you have a storied relationship with them, don't you?
Yeah, I suppose it's unusual. It normally goes the other way. People from Kerry come to Dublin to work and play football in Dublin, but I went the other way back in '96. So, yeah, there's a lot of good times there, a lot of good memories, and I'm always very thankful of the people down there for, I suppose, taking me in at a time where I was probably a bit lost in a lot of ways, and like they probably straightened me out and put me back in the straight and narrow, I suppose. So, look, a lot of great memories down there.
Yeah, because you'd won your All Ireland with Dublin. Then in 1996, Mickey Whelan comes in. Probably didn't work out for you, and ultimately you're watching one of the games from the stand. Then not so long after, you're probably getting dropped, isn't it?
Yeah, well, look, you know what I mean. Mickey Whelan came in, and I'm probably on record as saying that Mickey Whelan set Dublin back 10 years in terms of that Dublin team in '95 could have possibly went on and won another one or two with the group of players that were coming behind as well. But the best player on the panel in '95, the best footballer playing the best was actually Shay Keogh, and he didn't get a look in for 2 or 3 years after that. So he sort of went off the radar a bit, and there was a few other fellas. And I know fellas have said about the '95 team that it was an old team, but the likes of Keith Barr, Paul Curran, myself, and we were only 25, 26 at that stage, so we were really only, say, coming into our prime. So we were sort of used to the training with Fran Ryder and Pat O'Neill and the way they operated, and some agreed with what they were doing, others didn't agree, but it was fair, and it was sort of equitable at times. Well, Mickey Whelan came in and just said there's certain fellas going to be on the team regardless of what happens. So he was basically taking 2 or 3 spots from day one without fellas having sort of proved themselves and all that type of stuff. So it fell apart because fellas just didn't buy in fairness to him, and he didn't really get a chance. But he didn't have the man management sort of skills to bring players back in with him, and that ultimately cost him. I think he learned in time as well. Like
I was going to ask you that. Do you think he's a tough, and like there's a fair chance he doesn't agree with what you're saying anyway?
No, I'm sure Mickey wouldn't.
Course, you have to get that.
Like this is only my opinion. Like what I mean. Like I'm open to correction. That was just a feeling I got at the time, and I still feel that was the occasion. I've also said that he was by far the most forward-thinking coach I've come across at the time. I think his planning and his drills were absolutely superb. I loved the drills. I think it was just how he dealt with players. Now, in saying that, that group were a particularly tough bunch to get on with, because everybody on that squad thought they knew best, and it wasn't always the same. So there was a sort of cliques were starting to develop where if you didn't fit in with them, you were in trouble. And Mickey, unfortunately, didn't fit in with any of them at the time. So he was on a sort of a bit of a loser at the very, very start coming in. Now, in terms of he didn't owe Dublin anything from his playing career and what he done with Vincent's. Now, what he did with Pat Gilroy when he came in, then that's absolutely fantastic. The current players, I know when you speak to them, talk of them in high regard. I have a lot of time for Mickey. It's not, he hurt me deeply at the time to dropping me, and that it was very personal for a long time. But I've met Mickey since and said hello to him, so there's no sort of lingering sort of. It's just a regret I had, and he saw it one way, I saw it a different way, and those things happen at times.
Do you remember your first ever game against Kerry?
Yeah, it was strange. Like growing up, I suppose, as a child of the '70s, Dublin and Kerry, and I've seen Dublin win a couple of All Irelands, and next of all, Kerry took over, and these were the boogie men coming out in green and gold, And I remember I used to have a 4-foot teddy. Used to go up to the canal end, and myself and my older sister used to go there, and we'd have this 4-foot teddy decked out in Dublin colours, and that teddy got kicked home in '78 and '79, So that was my sort of introduction to it. Like I was at the '74 final as a kid with my dad. I was at all of them, but like my first game was actually a friendly game against them. And I would have thought, Kerry, they haven't done that. This was '88. They'd sort of gone off the peak of their powers. A lot of their older crew had sort of retired.
Hadn't won a title.
Yeah, and you went down, and these were the next of all fellas you'd never heard of, and they were kicking ball with the left and kicking with the right, and you were just taken back with these fellas where we were fitter than them. We were probably stronger than them because we trained harder at the time, I think. But these fellas had skills to beat the band, and that was the one thing that struck me. Anytime you played Kerry, they'd always have 3 or 4 fellas that could do things with a ball that you went, I need to learn more, I need to get better. So that was always my sort of look at Kerry, you know. But it was actually a friendly game, and the next game I remember playing them was we played them in the league semi-final then, and I think it was 93 in Croke Park, and we beat them fairly well that day. But the other time, the last time then was Thurles, so I didn't play that often against Kerry. Yeah, in 2001.
Because they were down for so long, and the years that Meath probably stopped you, the years that you might have met them.
Well, I was down in Kerry at this stage, so I was from 96 to sort of 99. I was down in Kerry. I was down in 97 when Kerry won the league and the All Ireland, and you know what I mean. I was sort of, there was rumour about me being brought back or being brought into the county panel and all this type of stuff. I think in the first league game in 97 I scored 10 or 11 points, and that continued on nearly for the duration of me stay down there. But they won the league then, and you know, I knew it wasn't going to happen. They're at to win the league. They're huge traditionalists down there, where I suppose Kerry football is stitched into the fabric of every Kerry man and woman, and it's hugely important to them. Like, so much so, if they don't win an All Ireland, it's nearly, you know, they go into mourning for a few months, you know. And I suppose I got what Paddy was trying to say about, you know, when he said the roughest type of animals and stuff like that. He said it in agricultural language, but what he basically meant for is, you know, the Kerry supporters are tough to please. Like, and I seen that firsthand in 97 when they hadn't won it in 11 years, where when we won it in 2011, it was like, you know, okay, we got one probably against the head, but we were absolutely delighted. Didn't think it'd ever happen again, and absolutely brilliant. But I was down in the square after with a few of the lads. There was two lads I played with, Morgan and Barry O'Shea, were on the Kerry panel. Barry was full back, and we were down with a few of the lads just to welcome them in, and fellas were saying, you know, it's the worst Kerry team of all time to win an All Ireland with the worst captain, and I just couldn't get over. I was going, but they're at them in the All Ireland. There's no such thing as a bad All Ireland winning team. Or so that was their sort of when they reflected on it, that they were an okay team, but in the annals of Kerry football, they weren't usually regarded. Now they went on and they won 2000, I suppose. So you know what I mean. They won a couple of All Irelands where.
And like, would you have happily worn the Kerry colours if you were called up?
I've often been asked that. I think after 96, you know, when I got that dreaded phone call from Mickey Whelan, which I can still hear, and I can still feel my legs going now, even when it's
actually,
when I mention it. You know,
that call. What did he say to
you? He just said, you know, I'm giving you a call that you're not going to be part of the panel for the next year, and I was like. I asked why. He you know, he was fairly straight up, and he said, we don't, you know, I don't think you're fit enough and all that type of stuff. He didn't give me an opportunity to sort of say you need to train harder or anything like that, because I asked him straight out. Again, it was part of that sort of squad sort of thing, was it wasn't me, it's somebody else. So I asked him, so Joe McNally is fit, and I'd be good friends with Joe, so you're telling me Joe is fitter than I am and all that type of stuff. So that was it. So he just said, well, that's the way it is, and we'll have a look at you again in a few months. So that sort of tied up with, so I was sitting on the stairs, I'll never forget it, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't move, and I must have been there, tears and, you know, snots and everything coming out, not knowing where I was going, because I was working as a Leinster Council coach at the time, and we had 3 11-month contracts, so we were at the final contract. So I was at a loose end, so I wasn't too sure where I was going to go, and all of a sudden I'm no longer a Dublin footballer. Like, it was very hard from the time year 4. That's what you were going to be. Like in school, when you were writing stories, it was how I was going to play hurling and football with Dublin and captain and win All Irelands, all that type of stuff. And now at 25, 26, finished, and you don't know what to do. So like it's still there, and I can laugh about it now and look back in retrospect. Like, I listened to Dottie Regan speak about him celebrating All Irelands and wins, and it was either all in and training or all in celebrating, and it really struck a chord with me how he parked that. Now I parked it years ago and as well, sort of saying, well look, you get what you deserve, but it took a long time. It wasn't like within a few months, it took me years to sort of get over that sort of hurt and pain of it, you know.
Really, yeah. And so when you did go to Kerry, what was the situation that you ended up in Kerry? So you were at a loose end.
Yeah, look, I was at a loose end. As I said, the contract is finished, so it was around the All Ireland time that I think Meath and Mayo were in the final, and I'd played in New York back in the early 90s with Donegal, and I knew Bomber Liston had contacts over there, so I'd arranged to meet Bomber to get over. And Bomber was asking me the situation, Matty, well, I'm not working, looking to get a bit of work, all that. And Bomber was managing Cairns or Atleys at the time and stuff like that. So he just said, you know, would you come down to Kerry? And I said, well, I'm prepared to go to New York for a bit of work. I'm prepared to go to Kerry as well. So it sort of generated from that. And you know what I mean? We got in chatting to the Bell, late, great P.O. Watchcall later on that night. We had a good few points and enjoyed the night. And it just grew from that. So I think within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of that, I was down in Kerry, even though the next league game wasn't 6 months or whatever, you know. So
you must have been like, did you wake up some morning and say, how did I end up down here?
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. I suppose it was like you just wake up and all of a sudden you're the quintessential Dub, all of a sudden in Kerry, and you're going, you know, you have to look within yourself and sort of go, you know, what's happening here? Like, this isn't right. I'm not in my holidays. I'm like, I could be here for the rest of my life, and you know, what am I going to do, and all that type of stuff. So yeah, there was a lot of days where I went, geez, I have to do something here, and like I just said to myself, I'm going to be hard to beat, and I decided I was going to sort of mind myself a little bit better than I had before that, and I probably, you know, not probably, I did play my best football down there. I'm not saying I was in the best shape I was ever in, but I was definitely for a couple of those years I was as fit as I ever was, and you know, I had a good 3 years with them. We won the Division 1 league down there in '99, beating Gaeltacht with all the O'Shea's on us. But like, there was days where I woke up and I just went, you know, it was surreal. Like, you're waking up some days and you're just looking out and you're going, there was nothing familiar for me, like being a townie, you know, and you know, you're going to team meetings, and our Atleys were going off to play in a Willa or whoever we were, and they were saying we have to beat these cultures. I couldn't get my head around that. Even in the country, there was townies versus country. It's like, it was fascinating to me, and like I got great crack out of it. Like, and I suppose towards the end they used to call me half a dub, because I started talking like them then as well, like, and the light came in instead of the full stop. So, but a great time, great memories down there, you know.
Yeah, because as a culture and coming up to Dublin, you do see the differences. Like, you must have at times, I mean, a few of the players must have been farmers or something like that, and they're describing driving the tractor down the road or something.
Well, not really. That's from most of them down. They were from the town. There was none of them. There was farmers. The only one that was close enough to being a farmer was Stephen Wallace, who would sort of come in from Art Fair from St Brendan's. But like, even that, you know, he was into drinking wine and doing all that type of fancy stuff. But no, there wasn't really. But the difference to me was, you know, I suppose the biggest memory I have, like in Dublin, if you had a league game at, say, you probably know yourself, like you meet an hour and a half beforehand, you're ready to go, and the match was at 7:30, so I arrived up to the club at 6:15, and the club was closed. Right, fair enough, maybe it's an hour, and then about half an hour, still nobody there, no referees, no other
what's
team.
the problem?
Yeah, what's going on? And I was sort of going, I was ringing around, and I was going, this game must be away, I'm not getting it wrong. So next of all, they all start arriving in it. The game is due to start, and yeah, it's only around that time. So that was the sort of the easy nature of it. Like, it wasn't sort of do or die, where Dublin, if you're playing a challenge game, you have to win it, and that's like Kerry it's a league game. You have a go and you try and win it. Where it was everything was championship down there, which I like. But you know what I mean. Like, coming from Dublin, every league game is important and win the league medal. But down there, they could have 20 league medals and go. You know, they find them in their pockets when they're looking for change and that. You know.
Surely there was a few words and slagging towards you on the field from being a Dub.
Yeah, I suppose. Look, I
Kerry
guess
people aren't short of word.
Yeah, no, there was a lot said to me, and you know, I would have a reputation for being a bit thick in mind and a bit thick in body and stuff like that. So I had a good 6 months before the league match, the first league game, to sort of steel myself to what was possibly going to come. And Bomber would have had me well versed that, you know, you're going to get nothing from the referees and that. And like, bar probably 2 incidents, I didn't react to anything and got on and played the football. But look, it's like everything else, you're going to react to it, and like, you know what I mean. I'm a firm believer. I heard it said during the week that, you know, there's diggings and all that going on, and I said you should be allowed to give a fella a slap, one slap during the game. He doesn't know when it's coming, when you don't know when it's coming, but it'll put manners on everybody, you know. So I sort of said to myself, that's a bit like the way it used to be, and you got away with it. But I suppose, look, I got disciplined down there in terms of not reacting to what was. It never bothered me what people said anyway, because probably didn't understand what you were saying anyway. So that never effaced me really, you know.
Were you close to getting a call up from Kerry? Were there any discussions?
Look, of course there was. There was, I suppose, back channel. Yeah, we might do this, but as I said, once they won the league in '97, that sort of nearly shut down. There was, I know there was Radio Kerry were all on it about in '97 and even into '98 about bringing me in. That they were saying I was playing the best club football, the best forward at club football. Now outside the county panel, because the county panel don't play club football really in terms of league games. And I believe there was a petition put in and all that type of stuff, and they were on the radio to me and stuff like that. So I just said,
did you go on the radio to talk about it?
No, I just said, look, you know what will happen will happen. I you know, it was sort of said to me, there was one of the fellas used to have a couple of points with after. He said to us, look, you know, Vinny, you know, I like you and all that, but you know, it'll be shocking if you were to play with Kerry. I'd rather us never win an All-Ireland than to play with an outsider. And he wasn't having a go at me. He was just saying there should be no outsiders. And I got that straight away. And I said, well, I think when I went down, I was that thick in '96. I would have played for anybody and you might have had an extra All-Ireland or two, but you know, I've often said I wouldn't have been able to come back and have the 2 years where I wasn't in an elite footballer. I just had a back catalogue of maybe he'd do something.
Yeah,
that sort of, and not a team that was in transition, so I was able to add something to them in the last 2 years. So that sort of repaired some of the damage that I'd done in terms of playing with the Kerry hurlers and going down there, you know.
Yeah, because like growing up, hurling was equally as good. Were you even more of a hurler than a footballer?
Yeah, no, I was up until minor. I was considered a hurler, you know, and I suppose I never played on the football team until played county football until minor level, and I was county minor in '87, and we played Kilkenny in the semi-final in Leinster, and for some reason I was dropped. They found out afterwards because I was playing with the footballers. There was 3 of us went over, and I couldn't get this, so I was brought on after 20 minutes and hurled out my skin. We got within a couple of points to Kilkenny, so that was fine. So I was, the late Jim Gavin was the manager then, and I think he was trying to teach me a lesson, but he would have been better off putting it out for me, trying to learn a lesson from somebody doing something. I was like, no, you're just being thick and I'll be just as thick back. Yeah. And what I couldn't get was, I wasn't good enough to start for the minors yet, but on the way home on the bus I was told, you're talking out for the senior hurlers the following week.
What?
So who
told you that?
That was Jim Gavin, who was over both teams. Yeah, he was over both teams. So that was a bit strange. So I spent about 6 to 8 weeks with the senior hurlers, played a few National League games with them, and was getting on. And you know what I mean. You're quite young, and the game back then, you're going in, you're just gone 18. It was hot and heavy, and in '88 then we played. It came on as a sub then in the Leinster Championship game, and to Joe Kelly at 18 to midfield. You're just like, right, throwing great player and a hardy player and stuff like that. So that was my introduction to hurling. The football sort of came on after that, where you know Jerry McCall was manager, and I'd been in an under-16 A championship final against Ballymun. We played them in 2 games. We drew in the first game and we got beaten in the second game, but I had 2 good games in that, and he remembered that. And then I played minor that year, the following year, and we were playing Wicklow in a minor game out there, and a fellow by the name of Fergus Daly was playing midfield to play county. He was actually, after the minor game, he was brought out with the seniors to play against Dublin, and I was playing centre forward, and I did a couple of points early on, so they put me out midfield on him, and I'm going, I'm 6 foot, this fella is 6'4", 6'5", and I just said to the keeper, don't kick it straight out on top of us, put it out to the left or right. So there's about 4 or 5 balls went out, and I beat him to the jump and to the ball. So that was sort of remembered. I scored a few goals as well during the year, so I was asked to go training with them. So and a day was done to alternate between the 2 of them for the National League. So 2 weeks you train with the hurlers, play the National League game. The next game then would be with the footballers. And the funny story was, I was with the footballers and it was coming towards the end of the league. I think it was probably January, I'd say. And McCall had called everybody into the thing. And now we called the squad. I stupidly, tickly thought I was part of the squad. So I was in and he said, lads, we're going to do an intensive training for the next 6 weeks, get ready. Blah. So I went training with them. And after the 6 weeks, he called me out and he says, you're not part of the squad, are you? And I go, well, you could have told me before we had to train us for so many nights and stuff like that. But he obviously liked what he's seen, and I was asked then to be officially a part of the panel. And the hurlers were probably asking, where's he gone and what's he doing? So look, these things are meant to happen sometimes, you know.
And as well, when you're in with the footballers, considering the lure that's there, 80,000 people showing up, it's probably hard to step away from that. Which is even seen now with some of the main dual guys.
Well, you know, as I said earlier, I was part of the development squads. Well, the setting up of them. Back in 2000 or 96, we were talking about there has to be the under 14, 16 squads. These need a little bit extra. But I've always been a firm believer that a football and hurling player at minor level shouldn't be allowed in Dublin, because it's not fair in the hurling for the simple reason some of the best hurlers in Dublin have all gone playing football, and they're taking the place of somebody else that might be as talented, but somebody might just take go a little bit higher or a little bit better.
Exposure to that level.
Yeah, and that's not to do away. Everybody deserves a chance, but I think that the decision needs to be made. In my case, it wasn't a case whether I chose football. It was more hurling, sort of. As I said, dropped from the minors. I wasn't too happy with that, and then I suppose because I was playing with the footballers, that I'd come back and everyone was equally be training hard and playing, and there'd be sort of a bit of the super dubs, and you have to. And I used to tell them, I said, well, look, the only difference between us is we get the same tea. You might get Marietta biscuits, plain biscuits, where the footballers might get chocolate biscuits, but there's no difference. They do the same work, and that sort of went on. But I could also see the difference in terms of the preparation. The footballers, like where when I went in, I would have been flying fit at minor level and going in. And when I was with the hurlers, I was at the front of runs. When I went into the footballers, my tongue was hanging out just to stay with them. So there was a difference in terms of preparation and I suppose you know, the determination. Like I played on and off up until 95 with the hurlers. I played in 95. We played Kilkenny and we were flying after 20 minutes. And I was marking Pat O'Neill, and me and him had a fair old battle, and we were going well. Next fall, Eamon Morrissey, who lives around the corner from me, scored these goals and ran amok. But we were going in a point down after hurling well, and I said, lads, we have a chance. And two of the players, I won't name them, I wouldn't shame them, but they were coming off for gone. And I was just, that to me, that would never in my life playing with Dublin have I heard fellas saying that. And then after the game, we were inside and I was sick. I was, you know, we're after getting beaten and we had a chance. Now they fairly beat us in the end, but we had a real chance of beating them. And fellas had their holidays booked for the following day, and I just went, that's it. And how can you put everything into, and you know you're going to hold them the following day. And that to me at the time summed up the difference between the footballers and the hurlers. So in a way, the hurlers made the decision for me, you know.
In the dressing room, actually, for winning that All-Ireland in 1995, who were the people that drove you on to winning that, do you think?
Well, as I said earlier, there was a lot of fellas in that team. You know, we had a lot of captains and we had a lot of leaders. And I think if you look through that team,
too,
egos, huge egos, huge egos, and some earned and some not so earned. But look, all you have to do is look at the amount of managers, club managers or inter-county managers came from that team. Yeah. So we all thought we knew the best way. But I suppose, look, it was when 95 rolled around, we had lost 91 the 4 games against Meath. We beat by Donegal in 92, Derry in 93 in the semi-final, down in 94 in the All-Ireland final. So I just think it sort of just got together at the start of the year and said we're not going to leave Anton behind us. We were a team that if you gave us an inch, we took a mile in terms of discipline and all that type of stuff. But for that year, the training was just relentless. Like, you know, the Tuesday after a match, relentless running. It was, you know, I still have pains in my teeth thinking about those sessions back then. And I was just, you know, all the way down. So much so, I think that we actually peaked in the Leinster final, and we were, you know, before the strength and conditioning and checking on players, I think we peaked in the Leinster final and we were on a slippery slope. You know, as fellas said, we would have won the replay, and I said we shouldn't. We probably would have got bet out the gate in the replay because we were on that slide on the way down. But I'd say Pat O'Neill has a lot to do with it, obviously, as manager. Fran Reuter is the actual trainer. But you had the likes of Charlie would have been there, John O'Leary, who is probably one of the greatest leaders of players in terms of, you know, the way he spoke, but he led by example, very like Cluxton in a way. Now John would be more talkative, but John would be leading runs. He'd be trying to win all the sprints and all. As a keeper, it was a huge thing. The likes of Paul Curran and Keeper, like there was a lot of fellas that you seen on the field, but also in training. You know what I mean? That led the way that year. Jim Gavin, you know, has done a piece where, you know, this before he was on the squad, and I never forget, it was on the video, and he asked to wind it back, and it was a score. I can't think of who got the score, but he brought it back down to where a ball was turned over, and I'd never seen anybody speak about turning the ball over as a forward, but he said that's where and it should have been stopped 2 or 3 times, and I was just going, and he's a sub, like, you know, and that was the attitude of it. But we had fellas like that very clever. We'd also fellas with a lot of brawn, and you know what I mean, we just probably fell over the line in '95, you know.
So that probably was to you sort of when you look back now, there's a signal that Jim Gavin is going to go on and become a top manager.
Well, I was friendly enough with Jim. It was himself and Paul Curran and myself would sort of be, and Desi, we sort of be the one age, and like we'd be myself, Paul, Desi, and we'd be all messers. Jim would be serious, but he enjoyed the crack as well. But Jim would be reading coaching books and stuff like that. And I'd ask him the odd time, could you give us a look at this book, and pretending I was interested. And I was, but not to the same degree as Jim would probably be able to tell you every word. Like, you know, on page 56 and the third paragraph to be this, Jim would be able to go into that detail. But you could see there was part of him there. And even after I finished in 2001, in 2000 and before 2002 came along, I got a phone call from Paul Curran, and I met himself and Jim for coffee, and they were talking about going in for the 21s and stuff like that. And at the time I was coaching at St. Monica's, so I wasn't able to get involved or whatever. So that was the genesis of Jim Gavin, and I would have thought at that stage Paul would have been, as being the marquee sort of player, would have took centre stage, but whatever was happening, Paul was still playing. Jim was sort of, I think, told by the management that your days are numbered here, but we want you to help out with the 21s and all that type of stuff. So, you know, that's where it grew from. You know, Tommy Lyons did something good for Dublin, I suppose. Yeah.
Just to jump back then a couple of years, when you end up playing hurling for Kerry.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, I suppose when I was down there, when the Kerry clubs and our Kerry clubs, where I did say that football is entrenched everywhere in Kerry except for North Kerry, where there is mad hurling, and they wouldn't know if a football match is going out. They're gas people, and they were all asking me could I play, and there was a sort of a link between St. Brendan's of Ardfert and Cairns or Atleys in terms of hurling. Fellas that didn't play hurling or didn't play football came in to play with Cairns or Atleys and stuff. So I was going out to play with them, and the great rivals, still the great rivals of Atleys, is Austin Stacks, right? They were talking about starting up a team. Now, a great club, don't get me wrong, but they were looking to start up a club. So that would have meant I would have had to play hurling with Stacks. And I was politely told by members of our athletes that if I attempted to put on that black and amber jersey, I'd be found in the lane with my 2 legs broke. So that wasn't happening. But I was hurling away. Our athletes put a junior team out, and we were hurling away. And I'd played a few friendlies when I shouldn't have with Brendan's around Limerick and stuff like that. So word got out that I'd hurled. But there was a big Kerry club hurling, as you probably know, is, you know, very clannish.
They don't spare each other down there.
And there was a bit of infighting, and there were certain clubs wouldn't release their players, or their players wouldn't play with the county. So that was the story. I remember they were playing Cork, and the paper before it was like the Cork team, and then Kerry, whoever shows up, that was what was put in the paper. And the manager at the time just rang me and said, would you be interested in playing? And I just thought, you know, look, sure, why not? I'll go out and have a play. But it was, you know, I've said it since, I didn't get a second chance to say no. If I shouldn't have just turned up, because when I put the jersey on, there was a sort of a jolt of electricity went through me, going, this isn't right. And I even after the game, you know, normally you go off with the lads and you do your own thing, and I just got the jersey. I don't even have the jersey. I think I left the jersey there, and I just went in and went home, and it was a real sort of deep moment for me, going, you know, what I've done is wrong. Because as a traditionalist, I put on another county's jersey where, you know, there's no Kerry blood in me, and I just felt I cheapened that jersey, the Kerry jersey, cheapened the Dublin jersey, and I cheapened myself because of it too. Like, you know.
How did you hurl against Cork?
I got 1-3 or 1-4 from midfield.
Oh, you did all right.
Yeah, did all right.
Who
Yeah,
were you
I
on?
could hurl. I think it was on the captain that year. He was then became known as the non-playing captain. I think it was Mark's. What was his name?
Anders?
Mark Landers. Yeah, was it Mark Landers?
If that's who you're referring to, yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to ask you then? But you never felt that way when you were playing for Cairns O'Reilly, though.
Oh, like you know what I mean. To me, when you're playing, I played with at this stage now. Played with 3 different clubs. I'm all or nothing, and you know, if fellas are playing beside us and are prepared to put a bit of effort in and I'll put my body on the line for them. I love playing with Rattlers because I think they appreciate what I brought to them before I came in. They wouldn't have been known to have forwards. They would have been sort of seen as having the best defenders in the county, good midfield, good goalkeeper, but they lacked a bit of firepower. I brought that little bit to them, and I think they appreciated that. And we sort of, you know, we had a bit of crack. The Tralee boys would have similar sort of bit of cuteness, a bit of crack that the north side Dubs would have. So we bounced off each other well, and you know, every club I played with, the first thing I look for is what are they going to give to win in this match, and if they're prepared to give whatever they can on the day, it doesn't matter whether they have 10 minutes or 5 minutes. You know, I'll give what I can as well. So that's the way I've always played. You know.
Well, when you hear from the hill, Vinnie's going to get you.
Yeah.
When did that first start?
I think it started. I don't know where the genesis of it came from when it first started. I know it came from, was one of my friends said they'd be on the hill and they'd be there. It said it came from the ad, Belly's going to get you.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
And that's where it came from. And then somebody must have said it in the hill, and it came from there. But the first I sort of heard was we played Offaly in 2001, and I remember being on the sideline looking and going, what's going on here? Like, you know, I just couldn't get over that Dublin men were bending the knees to Offaly players. Granted, they'd won Leinster title and league and they were good footballers, but it was almost as if some players were going, oh, sorry, yeah, it's your ball. And, you know, I just couldn't wear that. I don't mind the fella getting beaten and badly beaten as long as there's effort being given. And I went into the dressing room and I think I lost the plot anyway. John O'Leary had to grab me into the toilet anyway to calm me down. I didn't mind us being beaten. We'd been beaten the previous year in the Leinster final by Kildare when we got sort of shell-shocked with the 2 goals, and we showed no sort of leadership on the field. And that to me was a sign we're going to get beaten here if someone doesn't do something. So then when I got a call, I was steaming, and I came on, and for whatever reason the Offaly players decided there was 2 or 3 of them come in, and I just ran in a straight line. And I suppose I had a unique advantage back then. I was probably 2.5 stone heavier than most of the players, so there was only going to be one sort of winner. They weren't going to put me on my arse, I suppose. So I think it started from then, and then when we won that, it sort of continued on, like, you know. But it was absolutely fantastic, like, and you know, I knew I was retired because a few months later I was actually playing we were in the Paddy O'Shea tournament in Kerry, and the competition was over, and I was at Darragh O'Shea. We were having a few points after coming out of the nightclub, and we were walking up the square, and next of all, now there's people from all over the country, and next of all, Vinnie's going, and I think Darragh turned around to me and just says, it doesn't get any better than that. And I'm going, jeez, that's unbelievable. Like,
there must be some feeling standing in front of the hill and seeing them all cheering something, whether it's about you or about the team, and just being on the field and looking up and seeing that.
Yeah, it can be. I've heard fellas saying it's daunting. I loved it, like, where, you know, the Dublin supporters are fantastic, but they're as quick to put you down as well, like, which is fair enough. Like, you know, you pay your money, you take your chances, say whatever has to be said. But in fairness, when you win, the adulation that comes down. But the hill, especially if you're down, I very rarely like to hear, come on you boys in blue, because you were generally in trouble. Right, so things weren't going well, but that's what it meant. But it was great to hear that, even if you're being beaten, them saying that. But like, as anybody that has gone out and in front of them, it's just a roar, especially where we used to come out at the far end, and you come in and just that bubble of sound when you come out, the hair standing up in the back of your neck, and you know what I mean, you realise what playing for Dublin means, the amount of people, the area, your family, your friends. It's not just about them and you, it's about, you know, people you've never met. And you know what I mean, I suppose Dublin don't really get that compared to people in the country. People in the country really buy into their team, where it's only really happened in the last 10 years that everybody has a piece of this Dublin team, not because they're Dubliners, because the way they've sort of reached out outside of the game to, you know, the charity work, you know, going to hospitals, doing all that, all the good stuff like that. But, you know, that in front of the hill, especially when you've won, you go up and you're standing on the, you know, the barriers and you're shaking your fist up there, like, you know, their memories and feelings that, you know, there's nothing can buy that. You know, you still to this day you try and get stuff. The only thing that came remotely near was when Cluxon put the ball over the bar in 2001 and the stadium rocked, and there's me sitting in the stadium crying, trying to wipe the tears away, like, and I was going, oh, and the wife asked me, said, "You all right?" She's in bits, and I go, and a few Kerry friends were around. They were, in fairness, very gracious. They enjoyed and stuff like that, but it was a very emotional sort of feeling. You're connecting with people that, you know, some might know who you are, some might know who you are, but they're wearing the blue. It's the Blue Army, and there's a bit of crack, but fantastic times.
You mentioned tears there. You mentioned tears when you were dropped off the panel. Yeah. Can you describe the phone call or the situation that led to you being brought back onto the panel?
Yeah, well, look, I suppose, but we'd won the league in Cairns Rattleys, what you call it, in '99, and I knew I was coming back a few weeks before that, but I didn't want to let it out in case it's affected any of the players or anything like that. And what you call it, so I remember in the shower after, I remember saying to the bomber, "Look, there's something I need to tell you about," and he goes, he knew. Like, so whatever, he must have heard it somewhere, and he goes, "Don't be worrying, you don't owe us that, we'll talk about it." So that was grand. So I was going back anyway, but that was November, I think, and I got a phone call then from John O'Leary, and John asked me, was he interested in coming back, and I was a bit, yeah, wanted to take the hand off him, but I knew at that stage I was probably 3 stone, 4 stone, probably too heavy, and I was a bit him and a han. I went sort of missing for a few weeks, shall we say, and enjoyed me a few weeks in Rattleys. And then Tommy rang me wanting to meet me, and I met Tommy, and like, Tommy we'd be chalk and cheese, I suppose, but we always got on because Tommy be my type of player. Tommy give you absolute everything in the jersey, and I hugely admired him for that. So, you know, he was chatting away, and I was sort of going, I don't have 70 minutes in me. There's no way. And Tommy says, "We're not looking for 70 minutes, Vinny. We're only looking to see if you can make a difference for 5 or 10 minutes, maybe in a Leinster final." And the fact that he said 5 or 10 minutes, I was sort of going, like, even now I still think I could make a difference for 5 or 10 minutes, you know, but that sort of whetted the appetite. So, you know, Tommy goes, "Grand," and I said, "How would the other players take it?" and all that, and Tommy said, "Well, the league is starting up, we're not expecting you to play in the league," and all that type of stuff. There'll be a few friendly games and all that type of stuff, so they'll have enough time to have a look at you. So his trainer, Sheska, who is Sergeant Major in the Army, I remember for about 3 or 4 weeks up in total fitness to try and shed the pounds. Now, I still came back. I lost probably 1.5 stone in the 6 weeks, and I thought it was in good shape. But like, when you go up and try to run after the likes of Pader Andrews or these fellas, you realise, no, you're not really. So it started like that, and, you know, you could see fellas looking, oh, you know, he doesn't. But we played a few friendly games, and I'd done quite well. Like, I was never the quickest, but the runs I'd normally make them a little bit earlier or in behind me man and stuff like that, and he used to pull them and throw them on the ground, and anything you could get away with. And I think after about 2 or 3 games, fellas saying that there's something I could add, so there wasn't an issue then, you know.
And do you remember the buzz of your first reappearance for the Dubs in a competitive game?
Not really. Mike, that's a good one. Like you see, I remember we played Armagh in a friendly game. That was the first one, and then the next game was Westmeath, and I think I was playing corner forward, and I scored 4 or 5 points. And Tommy goes, "Yeah, it's playing very well. That was all right." And he goes, "Your man's a double lost there," or something. I was going, because I'd been out of the loop of Leinster football, I didn't get it. So, they were the two I remember, and then, like, sure, you just went with the flow then, really, you know.
We'll jump forward then to 2001, Thurles. Like, we're here for Dublin-Kerry, that Dublin-Kerry game.
Yeah.
What was the occasion like? Because, you know, Thurles is such an unusual setting for those two teams.
Yeah, well, look, it's still going on now. Take the Dubs out of Croke Park, and I didn't play too many matches outside of Leinster. So that was a strange one. It was also the start of the back door. So we'd been we'd been beaten in the Leinster final by Meath, and we were sort of going licking our wounds, and then realising the following week we've another game, we're back in, and that was hard to get round. We played Sligo and done quite well, and then we get the game from hell or heaven, depending on what way you want. But at that stage, it wasn't a rivalry between Dublin and Kerry. In terms of they did have a rivalry, but it was a one-sided thing. A bit like now, it's gone totally flip-sided. But we were playing in Thurles and getting everything organised. But coming into the town and the crowds, it was just like a sea of blue coming in, and the singing and the crack, and you're just going. You miss that as a Dub, that the players are only going into Croke Park, and you don't really see that type of stuff in the away games.
Did you get the bus from the town centre up over that?
We got the bus from Dublin.
Yeah, but when you came in through Thurles,
and then it's just
from over the hump.
All you hear is fellas going, "Oh my," and you just look, and there were some fellas dead into their chest, not looking. Other fellas pulled their curtains, and other fellas looking out at it. But it was a fantastic sort of advert for the game, and any player, like if I had to do it all over again, I think it'd be more like Jack McCaffrey. I'd be smiling and laughing and cracking jokes and trying to soak it all in, where I suppose in my year it was like, don't let the crowd ignore them, they'll fade in and fade out and stuff like that, where I think if you let it in and then block it sort of out, like as Tommy Connery used to say, he said, don't be looking for family members in the crowd and nothing like that. You'll get distracted and stuff like that, and the crowd will affect you, and the crowd will do this, and someone just turned around and said, Tommy, the crowd never kicked the ball in its life, you know what I mean? Yeah. But like, you look at Jack McCaffrey going around smiling and laughing and joking and enjoying it, and he's going to have great memories because he's soaking it all in, where most of us would have been head down, marching behind the band and going, just wanting the ball. Everybody felt comfortable. Once the ball is thrown in, you're in your comfort zone then. But before it, the nerves kick in, but like coming into Thurles that day, and the crowd, the heat, and I remember the heat, and when I was warming up down, the cheers be going up, and the boos from the Kerry fans, the crack, and you know what I mean. That was brilliant times.
Yeah, like it's 18 years ago now, so everyone just looks back with rose-tinted glasses. Was the game itself, was it a good game?
In its time, there was a lot of mistakes made, and like back then, there wouldn't have been the same sort of in-depth of turnovers, kick-outs. It was the goalkeepers was kick it out as far as you can to the right, or kick it out as far as you can to the left. Put your left hand up, it's going left. Very sort of bog standard stuff. But I would sort of say there's some decent football played in it, but a lot of mistakes, a lot of just lamp the ball as far as you can, I suppose. And like the game has changed, but I'd like to think that players of any era can play in any era, because you're going to be brought up at those skills, and that's going to be coached into you at a younger age and that type of stuff. Where when I was growing up, you played hurling and football, and you got the ball. If you were a forward, it was to try and get a score or create a score. If you couldn't do that, try and set somebody else up. If you couldn't do that, get fouled. Yeah. If you're playing in the backs, which I did a lot in the hurling and football, it was to get the ball and drive out and lamp it up the field as far as possible. It's somebody else's problem. Which, look, the games, it has, there'll be games now, this game coming up, it'll be like that as well. It'll be 50-50 ball, and I think the game is going to really depend on that,
Did you have much interaction with Kerry people before and after that 0-1 game? Because, you came on in the game, of course, so was there much said to you? Yeah,
well, look, I would have, I would have known Declan Quill, who come on. I would have coached Declan. The same with Tommy and what's called Davy Moran, they would have coached them underage and stuff like that. They would have been in my mum's house and stuff, and I would have been taught in the Declan beforehand. And we had a hug after we got beaten. I was wishing them to go on Winnies All Ireland now and that type of stuff. And over the years, like I've been having a bit of crack with some of them now on Twitter, like in the private messages. So I probably shouldn't put it in, because that type of thing has got me into trouble before. So look, yeah, you'll have a bit of crack with them, and you say, I'd be upfront enough to say what I feel, what'll happen. You can be wrong, but you know what I mean, there's no point in sitting on the fence. If you feel that something is going to happen, you say it. If you don't feel it, don't say it,
And then the game itself, when you came on, did you think, right, I have a chance to make a big impact here?
Well, I thought he made a mistake. that I think they should have started me.
Right.
Especially in the second game, but the first game, and this is probably going to sound big-headed, which it probably is, and it was at the time, and I'm talking about back then because I think I've got a little bit more reserved than, over the years, but I would have felt the only forward they would have feared was me, because they had seen me at club level, and a bit like this game on Sunday, they didn't want a dub to decorate them in a championship match. That would have been a huge fear for any of those defenders. So, you know what I mean? And I would have known Moynihan, who was a great footballer. He was playing full back, done a role for him, but he wasn't, to me, he wasn't comfortable on a big man in there, especially if the ball was played in high, not looping in, but dropping in, because Shane was very strong, very good footballer, but I would have felt they had the strength to knock him off, or at least hold the ball up. So that's what I would have said. But in the second game, then I think Declan Darcy pulled the groin on the Thursday beforehand, and he wasn't right. He was only fit to kick the frees really that day, and I just thought I should have been started, and lads just lamped the ball in for the first and see what happened. But look, that could have been just that could have been me just thinking that,
But do you feel that you left an All-Ireland behind in your second coming with Dublin?
No. No, I think that from 88 to 95, 96 there was definitely one, if not another two, that were potentially left behind. But I'm a firm believer, if you win something, you've earned the right to win it. If you don't win it, you don't earn it. And I think even 95, people say we were lucky, but Peter Canavan even came out in the after and said we didn't win because we weren't good enough. And I don't think the Tyrone teams of the Naughties would have came unless that attitude had gone on. Where, I probably think, looking back, I think if we had to get over Cork in '89, I think we would have won that. And 91, I think we possibly would have beaten Down, because I know from talking to a few of the Down players, the one team they didn't want to meet in the early 90s was Dublin. We always seemed to be able to beat them in the league, but I think them winning in 91 gave them that bit of confidence then to go and win the second one in 94. So I think in that era we probably possibly left two behind us, but in 2000 and 2001 it was sort of a common team and a team in transition. So I think we left a Leinster title behind us, all right, but not all Ireland standard.
Do you reflect overall on your Dublin football career as, I'm happy with my lot, I have an All-Ireland, or I should have got more out of it?
Jeez, that's honestly, I think I didn't get what I should have got out of the talent I was sort of given and that I worked on. But I suppose you get what you deserve. You get out of it what you put in. And like, I've an All-Ireland, I've 5 Leinsters, 2 leagues, All-Stars, Railway Cups, and there's loads of players would give their IT for half that. But I'd love to have 6 All-Irelands and 10 or 12 Leinster titles and 4 or 5 league medals. Of course you would, but there's some regret that we left a little bit behind us. But in saying that, the crack and the enjoyment, the fun we had as well, to live a sort of, monk's life, monk's existence, to have another 3 or 4 All-Irelands. I don't know if that would have been in a lot of that team, because there was a lot of drain pipes climbed down and all that type of stuff, and yahooing and having the crack and that.
Who was the maddest of that group? You're allowed to say yourself.
That's a difficult one. There's a few different times. I think everybody would have had that bit of wildness with us, but I suppose if you asked everybody that was there, they would have sort of came down. It would have been probably me or Wayne Daly would have came down to the two of us, I'd say. Okay. But now Wayne was a little bit madder than me, but we had a bit of crack anyway.
Do you think that you're referring to a monk's lifestyle? Do you think that that's what's happened with the current generation? I
just think that the level they're gone to, where the old saying for us was, you wintered well, you put a stone on. Once the league and championship was finished, you went back to the clubs and you enjoyed your life, and for those 3 or 4 months when you were away, and you done what you had to do with family and friends and all that. Where now the players are sort of watching what they're eating, watching what if they're going out. Even when they're not playing, I think it's a 24/7, 12 months a year sort of thing now for them. It's quite tough. They make the decision to do that, and I'm sure I've heard fellas that they go out for a few points, they're out the following day to run it out of them and all that type of stuff, where we'd be drinking and having the crack for 3 or 4 months, and next of all, you'd pay for it for 4 months then in January, February, March, and April the following year. But I don't know, you know, how much enjoyment they get out of it. Like all you can do is look at the players at the end of the game. You know, you look at the hurling, you look at Callan coming in with the cup. He doesn't look like he's a fella that it's a tough station to be, you know, an inter-county player. Like he's coming in, the smile, and the same with the Dublin players now, they're winning. But like I'm talking about, you know, the fellas that are playing for the likes of Wicklow or Sligo that are not getting the big games, that are not getting the press, or they're not getting the adulation. You know, are they able to do it and put the same effort in? They're probably putting it in, but it's easy for them to slip off and not put that effort in. But you know, would I play the game now? I'd play it for 4 or 5 years, I think, and then...
I've heard that from a few players, even the lads saying, I'll do it for another couple of years after that, I'm done.
Yeah.
But the guys who are in charge of the Dublin team now, Jim Gavin, Declan Darcy, there are many others, but Jason Sherlock, just to name guys that you played with.
Yeah.
Is it any surprise to you that they're all involved?
Well, I said earlier that not with Jim. Jim was always big into coaching, and especially American sports and stuff like that. J.O. would have been a fella that, you know, with soccer, he was an excellent basketball player as well, and I think that's what he brings in, and the basketball element. Declan would be, you know, one of these fellas that would just be very, very straight, very steady, but think about what he has to say before he says it. So when something is said, you know, there's a bit of talk on it behind it. So not really. Declan played at the highest level with Leitrim and Dublin, and you know what I mean. He brought a lot to Dublin when he came in, but he brought a huge amount to Leitrim. The leadership he showed down there when he was captain, when he won Connacht for the first time in '94. So it's not really, but I think their biggest strength, and I think Jim's biggest strength is the people he brings in to do a specific job, are ones that do that specific job and never overstep the mark anywhere else. They just do that specific job, really. You know, I think that's the greatest strength of the team. You know, all the sum of its part is greater than.
Do you like this hierarchical structure that you'd hear of in there, where if you want to pass a message, if you're a back and you want to talk to management, you actually go through the backs coach, and it's that sort of army-like hierarchy that Jim will learn through his work with. What do you think of that?
I think it's. I don't know how I would have dealt with it as a player. I might have got very frustrated, but I'm sure players at the start got very frustrated with it, and maybe stepped out of line and found themselves back playing club football very quickly. I think, you know, to me, from what I've heard, and I would have the same thing. What's it like? But if you want to know what's wrong or why you're not getting a game, you go to the people that are feeding the information to the manager. So that's the backs coach or the forwards coach. So what they do is, why am I not getting on? And it's there in black and white. And there's no, obviously when you look at fellas that, you know, great footballers that are, you know, not even getting game times, like Brogan not even being talked out, and they're still sitting there, and people can say, he's only doing that because, but he doesn't have to do it. Paul Flynn could have done that as well and said, look, I'll sit back for a while and do nothing, but he decided to retire. That they just want to be part of something that could be, if it happens, part of something that will probably never happen again, hurling or football. And I just think they know exactly where they stand. Like, I heard someone telling me that Brogan was talking to him, and he said, I need to give the management team more reason to play me or put me on the sideline. I need to. So it's not it's I need to do this. And I think that's what Jim has brought. And I think that there's a huge honesty with Jim to the coaches, and the coaches then to the players, because it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't. You might have got away with it for a year or two, but you wouldn't have got away with it for the last 7 or 8 years. And there's no leaks from the camp. You don't hear anything out of the camp, and if you hear something, you just don't know whether it's true or not, because you know, in my day, you'd hear the team be announced at 9:05, say, and by 9:30 everybody would have it. And even though you're not to tell anybody, don't tell, you know, it'll be out because you tell your brother, you tell your sister, and everybody would know. But nobody seems to know really what's happening. And I think Jim compartmentalises the team like that to make sure that nobody really knows. So I think it's this counter intelligence sort of thing that the IRA used to use, the different cells and stuff. I think Jim uses that type of stuff, so nobody really knows what's going on.
How did Dublin turn the tide on Kerry? And it started in 2011. Kerry were in a great position to win the game. It's stolen away, not stolen, but it's taken away from them in the last 7, 8, 9 minutes. and from then on, Dublin have been kicking on.
Yeah, well, look, if you look at when Jim came in, you know what I mean. Pat had won, had won the All Ireland, or come in, and he had sort of changed the dynamics with Dublin in terms. Before that, you know, we were bet out the gate to start the earwigs, and he just said, look, you know, what's going to happen? How do we change this? And he had a meeting with all club managers in Dublin where he invited them all in for everybody to say what they had to say, right, wrong, or indifferent. And as he said, lads, I mightn't get any information here, but I might get one or two nuggets. And some of the things that were said, you know, given out about individual players and all that type of stuff that went on. But there was a sense then by other fellas that the Dublin team had lost the connection with the fans, you know what I mean, and that they were aloof and all that type of stuff. So there did seem to be a change in that they were trying to go, you know, in the noughties. You could see them sort of going up and marching the back, and I would have done it myself, but that's not really Dublin people. We would do that after we win, not before the game has started and all that type of stuff. And that was a sense of it, that they didn't represent Dublin people, and you know what I mean. And that's harsh on the players because that's not their fault, but I just felt that he turned good footballers into hard-nosed players, and that was the biggest difference. That players training 2 or 3 nights a week up in the gym and looking beach body ready and all that type of stuff had changed. That all of a sudden you're training at 6 and it was down in the dirt and it was hot and heavy, and everything that you did was analysed and fed back. And I suppose to me the biggest thing was the likes of Bernard Brogan. Someone said to me, you know, what he doing with Brogan was fantastic, and he gave him the confidence, and he said the conversation apparently went, you know, Bernard, you're up here in the corner. Yeah, and all the other 14 fellas are working as hard as they can, you know, to get the ball up to you, and you get it and put it over the bar in the back of the net. Is that right? Bernard apparently went, yeah. And he goes, no, it's not fucking right, Bernard. You have to work and chase back and have to do it, and if you do that, you'll be on the team. And that seemed to be a trigger for Bernard to sort of go, okay, if I work hard, I'll be on the team all the time. And that he started doing all that, and then he became the player he became, you know. So I think that was nobody would have said boo to the likes of Brogan before that, or a player of his calibre that have challenged them like that, to sort of say, you know, you need to do more for the team. If they're doing all that, there's, you know, not a passenger, but you can't leave your work to somebody else. And I think that was the difference with Killer. The other thing as well, the 2010 Leinster final against Meath, there was still a push of players wanting to play this open, expansive football and all this type of stuff, where he wanted to play a sort of more defensive orientated game. So after that defeat where Meath got the 5 goals, he brought them in and said, no more lads, you do it my way, and that was it. So I think that's sort of, he said, right, you do this, we'll play the way you want to play. After that, then I think players went, yeah, we need to start listening and change. So he brought a hard edge to the team in terms of preparation and getting ready. The likes of Flynn, the likes of Brogan, the likes of Cluxton, they all bought into all that and went to the nth degree to where they are now, you know.
I do like looking into this semi-final, because this will be since 2011, 2013, 2015 and 2016 wins for Dublin all the way. Yeah. Most of them now were very tight. Bar 2015, that final was probably a 3-point hammering, really. Yeah. You know, it was never really in doubt. Do you go into this game now? Kerry have changed over, a lot of young players. Some people in Kerry would say they've gotten to an All-Ireland final a year or two ahead of schedule, really, because of the youth that's there. Yeah, there's a sense that this final is, you know, the cup's already in the bag.
Well, look, that's people on the outside, and you know what I mean. The team that's there, the great thing about them, they never get too far ahead of themselves, or they take every day as it comes, which is their I suppose their greatest feat, to be able to do that. You know, in relation to Kerry, yes, 15 was a 3-point hammer in the rain. 16, I've heard Kerry people saying they were the better team, and I'm going, bar the 5-6 minutes before half time, Dublin were by far the better team. That Dublin were a 10-point better team that day. And to me, 2001 was one sort of slightly against the head, if you want to call it. Dublin were thereabouts. Kerry were probably the better team, but I thought was more experience and know-how, but they didn't get it done. Dublin came back and stormed back, and that sort of opened it. And Dublin have been the superior team since. Kerry haven't acknowledged that, and I think that's their problem. I'm not saying they go down and bow the knee or say, yeah, you're brilliant and you can play whatever way you want, But there seems to be a constant now, if we had done this and we had done that, and the referee, and you're just going, lads, you got beaten, that's the end of it. Like when we got started Lear weeks, we came out and every dub was hurting, really hurting, and hurting for the players, and the players got dogs abuse off supporters. And you know, I've often said that's probably why Mayo didn't learn, because their supporters go down and think they're great, which they are fantastic players, but they go down and there's 20 or 30,000 after losing in All Ireland. There's no other county does that. And I think you need to sink into the mire of the heart being got a bit of stick and stuff like that. But in relation to this game coming up, you know, what have Kerry done in the last 4 years, or 5 years, since they won in 2014? They've been showing up since that their back line is open. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. They're wide open in the back line. They tried to play a sweeper. It's not in the Kerry's DNA to play sweepers, because they're going, we spent 100 and odd years being the aristocrats of football. You're telling us we can't play 15 and 15? That's shocking. Like, you know, there's Kerry greats turning in their grave going, we can't play 15 and 15. And I'll go back to what I was saying, that one of the fellas said to me down there, if we're not good enough to win it with air players, we don't want to win it with outsiders. And I think Kerry would have that. If they're not good enough to win it with 15 and 15, they probably prefer not to win it. Now, I do think but that's in their psyche. So when they're asked to play defensive, I think Kerry's big thing is hammer to hammer. That's what you hear. They go after. The only team where we in Dublin, when I was playing, it was like, oh, they're good there. How do we keep the ball away from them? Where Kerry go, let's take them on. We're better than them.
Let's take them on. 15 hammers to target this time.
I think that's the problem. You know what I mean? I think Kerry will target Dublin's full back line with long high ball in early on.
But isn't the problem with that so few teams get themselves into position to even put those balls in, certainly when Clare is isolated?
Yeah, I agree. And the problem with a lot of counties, and I know Eamon McGee was saying there's not enough good kickers at county level to kick a ball 50, 60 yards like that in, because it's not being done at club level. Where Kerry will have players that are able to do that, because they're brought up all along about kicking the ball before they hand pass it. It's all about heads up football, and I know that from coaching down there. So they will have fellas down there, and it wouldn't surprise me to see the likes of Tommy Walsh in there. And I think, you know, Dublin have shown, like any team, most county teams are weak under the high ball because it's not being coached at club level, and therefore fellas are, you know, getting exposure to it. So what happens when the ball comes in high? They're like, this is unusual. It must have been a miss kick. So I think that's where Kerry could get, but that's the only joy they're going to get over 70 minutes. I think the forward line will do damage. They're good players, Clifford and Geaney and Shawnee Shea, like good footballers, and will win All Irelands at some stage over the next number of years, provided the Kerry probably get the balance right and get a couple of defenders and a full back and centre back. Because if you look at any team that wins All Irelands, whether it be hurling or football, full back and centre back is always strong. Always strong, and no team has had a weak full back or a weak centre back, and I just think at the moment they're vulnerable there, you know.
Do you think for Kerry people it would sicken them that Dublin would complete the 5 in a row against them?
Look, you're talking about this like Planet of the Apes stuff to Kerry people. If Dublin win 5 in a row and obliterate the record of their greatest ever team, and like someone said, if King Khan gets 3 goals to obliterate Bombers at 78 3 goals, that, you know, the aristocrats of Gaelic football is changing. Like Dublin will be within 7 or 8 All Irelands of them again, and the thing would be Kerry people that are not involved in the team will think it's shocking. But I'm just thinking the pressure that must be on those players
in Kerry.
The younger fellas to come up and being asked to sort of play this type of match, that if they get beaten in it, they will never ever be forgiven for it. They could win 7 or 8 All Irelands, but you lost the 5 in a row, and that'll be thrown at them. And that's going to be a tough one to swallow if it happens. But that's the facts.
Do you think the pressure is more on Kerry to stop this than it is on the players in Dublin to complete
it? Yeah, because the Dublin players are, like, as much as you'd like to think that they don't hear or know there's 5, of course they know it's 5 in a row. Like, and I know Dermot went before, you have 5 out, like that type of stuff. But the 5 in a row is sort of parked at the door when you go in because I suppose the lifestyle coaches or the mental coaches that deal with them are bringing them back into the now every time they go into the training session. So that's constant. And I'm sure the Kerry guys are the same thing is happening, that you can't worry about not being a 5 in a row or a 1 in a row. It's about this game. It's about doing and they're all talking. Do you ever notice all the teams are talking about the process now? Where Jim was one of the first to sort of do it. If you do A, B, and C, it's going to lead to, and that's the stats and all that type of stuff. Jim works on about 3 different stats, and he knows if those 3 are there, you win 90% of the games. And I remember saying to me, he said, it's not just hurling, it's not just football, it's soccer, it's American football, it's basketball. These specific stats are not going to get
breaking ball, shot efficiency, this type of thing.
Do you know what I mean? And it's amazing when you think about it. Like, it's ball retention from puck outs. Like, you know what I mean? As Jim would say, the game it's an invasion game. When you get the ball, it's about trying to invade the other team's space and get scores. And I said, the more stats you have in their danger, red zone, the better. And then where you take the shots from. And the Dublin team are drilled to within an inch of their life in relation to that. Like our Kerry, possibly they get it from I would say a younger age. It's innate in them, the heads of football, making the right decisions and stuff like that. So it'll be a fascinating duel, but I just think it could be a year too early for this Kerry team. But if Dublin turn them over, I think it could do an awful lot of damage to the young psyche of that Kerry team. Now, don't get me wrong, Kerry could go from the wilderness, next fall win 2 or 3 All-Irelands, and then next fall go missing and come back. Like they pick up All-Irelands when other teams are, like in 2014, they wouldn't have been considered in the top 4 sort of teams in the country, and all they win it. So they're a bit Kilkenny-like and that type of thing. If a team comes up all of a sudden, you know, there's an opportunity here, we'll take this. You know what I mean? They seem to do that, where Dublin are doing that now. I think Dublin are going to win by 7 or 8 points. And
just a final question then. You've kind of lived in Kerry, you've lived in Dublin, so you know what it's like in terms of the pressure to win in All-Ireland. In Dublin, certain parts, because there's so much else happening, you might be a little bit anonymous at times. Whereas if you're down in Kerry, I'm sure all anyone's thinking of all the time is football. You're recognised by absolutely everyone. And I know you didn't play for Kerry. But so from that point of view, do you think for a Dublin player it's easier to kind of slip under the radar for a few weeks?
Look, of course, you're living in Dublin, you can see that there's a very low key. It'll start next week, alright. There's very little of it, and it'll start building up. I can assure you, since the game has been, you know, Dublin and Kerry were there, Kerry footballers are down, and people are telling them, you can't let them beat you for the 5 in a row. It's not, you must win this game, as you can't let them beat us, and you know what I mean. And but you're right, the Dubs, you could walk down the streets and nobody knows you. And you know, I suppose in Dublin I'd walk down when I was playing, and nobody half people wouldn't know you. Some might go, I've seen him, you know, the type of way. But I remember arriving in Tralee, and I had my bag, and I was walking up the main street, and about 4 or 5, how are you, Vinnie? I didn't know who they were. But that's what I'm saying. There's no getting away from it where they are. It doesn't matter what part of the Kerry they're from. Once they go in, Kerry people are so in tune with what's happening, and they feel that the team is part of them, and they have the right to tell you what they feel. And where Dubs will probably go, best of luck, you know, and they won't really engage in the conversation. Where the Kerry fellas will be telling you, I think you need to do that, and I think you need to come on to Fenton, and I think so I pity them that way. But like there's also good things in that'll focus the minds as well for the Kerry lads, where, you know, for years in Dublin, left to your own devices, you can get lost in it as well, and the discipline, well, it should be all right to go for a couple of points here or there and whatever, you know. Where the Kerry fellas, if they had a point in the 1st of January, everybody would know about it within an hour or two, you know. So swings around a bit.
Great stuff, Vinnie.
No problem. Cheers.